Kimi Antonelli won his second consecutive race, and the Italian has taken reign of the championship, knocking down his teammate Russell from the throne. While many thought that it would be George who'd have an easy path to the championship once Mercedes had a dominant car, that theory is now being disproved by Antonelli. And the tensions are on the rise. Could we be set for another 2016-like season at Mercedes? And if so, how will Wolff react to it for the second time in his career? The gauntlet has been thrown from Kimi Antonelli. The Mercedes driver won his second race of his career, and by making it 2 in a row, he's now the leader in the Drivers' Championship. And while this is great for us F1 fans, it's creating a tension in Mercedes that they didn't anticipate in the first place. Kimi Antonelli is proving day by day why he was Wolff's choice to replace Lewis Hamilton. And this is something that George Russell isn't enjoying at all. He was dubbed to be the next leader of Mercedes, the next driver who'll bring the championship hope. And now that 2026 started in the Silver Arrows fashion, he is failing to prove that dominance. In the beginning of the race, both Mercedes drivers had a poor start, and Antonelli dropped to P5. But as he started stabilizing, it was obvious that this was going to be one of his races. One part of this race was crucial: the timing of Russell entering the pit lane. Had he gone 1 lap later, he would have secured the safety car conditions that applied for Kimi, as Behrman crashed just after George exited the pit lane. Be that as it may, this is part of the sport, and Russell was the one who called on the radio that he's losing a lot of racing time with these tyres. On the other hand, Antonelli was having a blast on the used medium tyre. At one point, he even set the fastest lap of the race, proving that the tyre issue must have been isolated to his teammate's car. And once Russell saw his race being turned upside down, the messages started to pour in. This is something that George needs to change if he is to fight for the Drivers' Championship. You're showing your weakness live on TV, and it doesn't bode well for you. Even Wolff had to say to him that he needs to put his head down and just continue with the fight, no matter where it takes him. It's not like he was stuck at P8 or something. He ended up at P3 behind Piastri and Antonelli, and on the restart, he lost a position to Hamilton because he was too worried about what was happening in the front. As the race progressed, he lost a position to Leclerc as well. So at one point, instead of fighting for the race win, Russell found himself fighting for a podium. All the while, Antonelli was building a steady lead in the front and managed to capitalize on the race conditions turning in his favor. And that's the problem that Mercedes and Russell will have in the following period. Even though the Silver Arrows are by far the most dominant team out there, in Suzuka we've seen that things can turn around very easily. Russell had a very hard time getting past Piastri in the first stint, and he failed to do so. And in the second stint, he didn't manage to get past Leclerc, only Hamilton. If they are stuck in traffic, a lot of scenarios can happen, and their rivals are not afraid to defend a bit more aggressively because they have nothing to lose compared to Russell and Antonelli. So, this is where Antonelli's advantage comes in. By being steadier and by capitalizing on positions that were literally gifted to him by the racing gods, he can take away more from Russell's points. And that will be emphasized even more in a scenario like Suzuka, when there are other drivers in between them who are keeping Russell out of that secured P2 seat. As of now, there is a 5-week break in which Mercedes needs to think about their priorities, and one of them is whether they'll follow McLaren's rules from last year or succumb to the 2016-like season and let the drivers decide on the track as to who is the better one. Considering the fact that both of their drivers are very young and ambitious, I don't think Wolff can pull the trigger and appoint a number 1 driver in his team. After all, he knew that a scenario like this was highly possible and that Russell needed to prove himself against Antonelli if he were to become a champion in Mercedes. I do believe that George is now suffering from what Lando had last year, needing to prove that when you have the fastest car in your hands, you can win easily without any other obstructions. And both of them had the same obstacle: their teammate. Antonelli now has more race wins in 2026 than Russell, and even though in Suzuka the luck smiled on him, the pace that he's shown was magnificent. If George were stabler with his thoughts and had a more composed race restart, he would have finished P2 and perhaps had a shot at P1. Like this, he let his mind eat him from the inside as he ended up outside the podium places and with a 9-point deficit ahead of the big unplanned break before we go to Miami in the beginning of May. And this is where things are poised to get interesting. Ferrari are expecting a far more competitive package from when F1 returns on stage. Fred Vasseur has spoken about this, as the Frenchman is in high belief that the championship will look different once we head to the States, primarily because of their Macarena wing. Keep in mind that Ferrari were good competitors here in Suzuka without a significant upgrade package, and Leclerc's racing craft was just magnificent to say the least. When talking about the championship predictions from Miami onwards, Vasseur said, "Overall, we are not far off Mercedes, and we know that from Miami onwards it could be a different championship. We need to keep scoring a lot of points, getting on the podium, and staying close to Mercedes. The rate of development across the championship will be very high, which is why we need to keep pushing hard over the coming months. And that is a luxury that other teams will have compared to Mercedes. The learning curve has probably reached a plateau for the Silver Arrows, and we can see that McLaren, in pure racing conditions, is not that far off Mercedes either. The Woking-based squad has failed to start this season on the right foot, but in Suzuka, they've shown that this championship is far from over. We've seen it with Red Bull in 2024 as well. After a dominant start of the season, Verstappen and his squad have started to go backwards and were eventually caught up in both of the championships, only managing to secure the title in the drivers' category. That is why it's highly important for Antonelli to keep this momentum going, and I do believe that not many believed he had it in him to take over the reins at Mercedes. I'm not saying that Russell is washed and this championship is over. I'm just saying that the biggest competitor he'll have will sit next to him in the garage and not in the other teams like Ferrari or McLaren. And so far, Russell is showing cracks in his confidence and driving abilities. We know he has it in him to extract the absolute maximum out of the W16. But with Antonelli having nothing to lose and becoming the youngest pole sitter in the history of F1, the pressure will be mounted on Russell's shoulders to prove himself. This opens up another question: the future of either one of these two in Mercedes. I don't want to speculate here, but I'll just say one thing. If things continue to develop in this manner, make no mistake that Russell will ask for changes. If those changes are not fulfilled, the threat of him leaving Mercedes and succeeding somewhere else is a realistic one. And that's the headache you get when you have two alpha male drivers like Mercedes has right now. With all this in mind, do you think that Antonelli is the next leader of Mercedes ahead of the remainder of 2026? And if so, how do you think this will result in Russell's future with the Silver Arrows, one he's been building for quite a long time? Let us know in the comments below.